Hey, sixth graders. I just want to go over a recap of what we did today. We did an activity in class, actually, at card stations, and they were just a bunch of practice problems. But there's a couple that I want to go over to make sure we're all on the same page as far as adding and subtracting mixed numbers. So if I have, let's do adding mixed numbers. So remember, the first thing you have to do is find a common denominator. It's going to be the same directions for most everything. Okay, so that's always your first step. So if I had 3 2/7 plus 1 2/3, okay, I have to figure out what do 7 and 3 both go into. Not what can go into them. Nothing go into them but 1. So if I have to, I list out I go 7, 14, 21, 28, and then I could list out my 3s if I needed to, 6, 9, 12, until I get to a number. So far I haven't. 15, 18, 19, 20, 21. Oh, there we go. So I know 21 is the least common denominator. Okay, once I find a common denominator, then I have to change the numerator, okay, to match that fraction. I need an equivalent fraction. So because I multiplied 3 by 7 to get to 21, I have to multiply 2 times 7. So that's 14 21s. Because I multiplied 7 by 3 to get to 21, I have to multiply 2 times 3. Okay, and once I do that, I would just add my numerators. Okay, so my second step was, remember, once I found the common denominator, I change the numerators. Okay, to whatever I multiply the denominator by, and then I'm going to add the numerators, keep the denominator, okay. Takes me a long time to write. So 6 plus 14 is 20, 21s, and then I'm going to add my mixed numbers. 3 plus 1 is 4, so my answer would be 4 and 20 21s. Now, I would simplify that if it wasn't in lowest terms, but in this case it is. So my last step would always be to simplify it. But mine is in lowest terms. Nothing goes into 20 and 21, so I'm all set there, okay? So that's one with adding. Let's say that when I got done, let's say that this was 3/7 instead, okay? So if this had been 3/7, I would have had 3 times 3 and 9, and I would have got more than 20 21s, okay? So let's say that this had been 3/7, and I would have had to multiply 3 times 3, and I would have got 9 21s and 14 21s. So let's say I had to do that, and I would have got 23 21s. Okay, so that's okay. It's just I've got to change this. I would have said 21 goes into 23 one time, and I have 2 21s left over. I would add this to my mixed number, okay, or my whole number. So if I had 4 and 23 21s, I would have 5 and 2 21s, okay? So that's just, sometimes you come across that if those fractions were greater, if you have an improper fraction, and then you just change it to a mixed number and add it on to the rest of your problem. All right, the regrouping was subtraction. What you need to remember is that any number over itself is 1, okay? So if I have 6 over 6, it equals 1. If I have 7 over 7, it equals 1. If I have 12 over 12, it equals 1. So if I had 6 2/3, would this be the same as saying 5 plus 1 plus 2/3, right? And I'm just totally breaking it down, okay? Which would be perfect. I could also rewrite my 1 as 3 over 3. So it'd be 5 plus 3 over 3 plus 2/3, okay? So those are all the same thing. This is equal to this. All I did is split up the 5 and 1, and that's equal to this because all I did here was change my 1 to a 3/3, okay? So using that information, if I had 6 2/3, and I want to subtract 3 and, let's say, 9/10. Okay, so always common denominator. I would find the common denominator, which in this case is 30. Remember, I multiplied whatever I multiplied the denominator by, I multiply the numerator by. I multiplied 3 times 10, so I multiplied 2 times 10. Now I've got 20 30ths and 27 30ths. Not a good situation to be in. So what I need to do is, remember I split this 6 up to a 5 plus 1? So I'm going to change this to a 5, and I'm going to add my 1 on over here. But I'm going to use 30ths because I need my denominator to be 30ths. I added the 1 plus the fraction gives me 50 30ths. I have to add those two together. So here's the one I borrowed. Here's where I put it. I just rewrote it as 30 over 30 instead of 1. Now I can subtract them because this numerator is bigger than this numerator. So I would do 50 minus 27. Make that a 4 and that a 10. I get 23 30ths. And then I would subtract my whole numbers. Okay? So you just remember that if this numerator is smaller than this one, you have to regroup, okay? There's no other way to do that. I mean, you could change it to improper and then, but would be a huge number if I had to change it to improper and then find a common denominator. So it's always easier to regroup it. Just think about the fraction I had plus the one I borrowed, okay? And I'm done with that when I changed it to 50 30ths. All right, I hope that helps, and I hope you have a great weekend.